Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here I come back. My camera. Welcome to Syriana analysis. I just want to check if I'm online because I want to post the links of this live streaming on my social media account so that more people would join me. How is my volume? Every time I go on Syriana analysis, people are complaining about my volume and it's too low and stuff. So I ordered the amplifier. The amplifier is coming whether tomorrow or after tomorrow, guys. So little bit patience would be really appreciated from your side. This is a really good microphone, but I need some amplifier to make it louder and clearer for you. You deserve it, but it's also a very big investment for me. So sometimes it takes time, right? So let's share this on Facebook. Today I'm going to speak about the Israeli airstrikes on the Syrian Iraqi borders. We know for sure that Israel did this strike on a convoy that they say it's an Iranian convoy. And they also say that this convoy was carrying weapons to Syria or to Hezbollah. So Israel had to intervene, right? Because they have to protect their security. Every time Israel strikes another country in the region, they come out and they say, "Oh, we have to protect our country." So they're protecting their country on somebody else's territory. If I have to say this blatantly or directly, now why these attacks happened in Syria. So let's put these attacks into proper context, right? Without the context, we are not going to understand anything. You will go to the mainstream media and they will tell you, oh, Iranian linked groups were attacked by Israel. So if they are linked to Iran, then it's a legitimate to strike them, right? And kill lots of people. So, guys, in 2011, you may all know this, but let's put it in the proper context. The regime change war started against Syria, and it was a covert operation engineered by the CIA. The CIA thought it's a brilliant idea to remove President Assad from power and bring a different government that is allied with the United States and with Israel. And so they waged this war. The covert operation was called Timber Sycamore, and Timber Sycamore was one of the costliest covert operations in the history of the CIA. And this is according to the New York Times. Now, the United States, at the first 2 years, they tasked Qatar to wage this war, but when they failed, they told the Saudis to continue it in 2013. And in 2013, there was this guy, Bandar bin Sultan. Bandar bin Sultan is or was the head of the Saudi intelligence, and he asked the countries, the Gulf countries, to spend $2 trillion to remove Assad from power. Guys, this is not a small number. This is 2 trillion. So that means, I don't know, 200 billion. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a very, very big number. And they couldn't collect all this money, of course. And in my estimates, they were like $200 billion from uh, Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, and from other countries, and they managed to create havoc in Syria, right? But many years after this war, they failed to remove the government in Syria. And in 2017, Trump came and he said that he want to stop this covert operation of the CIA in Syria, and they changed their plan, and there was a plan B. So why I'm telling you all this, guys, because without this context, we're not going to understand why these attacks happened on the Iraqi Syrian borders. So the plan B stands on three pillars, right? The first pillar is the sanctions. The sanctions are aimed at sanctioning the Syrian central bank, sanctioning the Syrian government, sanctioning any individual state or non-state actor that is dealing with the Syrian government or trying to provide the basic necessities for the Syrian people. So the sanctions are aimed at strangling the Syrian people. And this is what the other day, the former senator and the retired colonel, on our show, he appeared on our show and he said exactly this, Richard Black, right? And I published this now actually on Twitter, just for you also to refresh your memory. What is the plan B of the United States when it comes to the sanctions and occupying the wheat fields, the oil fields of Syria? So this is Senator Richard Black. He was with me yesterday, and if you want to watch this, you can, of course, find it in on my channel. I posted it again on Syriana analysis with an improved volume, as you guys demanded. So the American idea after the liberation of Aleppo in 2016 was to impose famine on the Syrian people by occupying their oil and wheat fields so that they would somehow rise up and overthrow their government in favor of the terrorists. Let's see.
Around this time,
Just a second. Yep, I'm sharing it already.
Secretary Kerry went to the Middle East, and in great frustration at the defeat of the terrorists, he announced that we might have to go to Plan B. Nobody knew what Plan B was at the time, but we learned in time that what it was a plan to put U.S. troops in northern Syria to seize control of the wheat that was produced. The northern Syria is the breadbasket of all of the country. And the idea was to cut off the wheat to impose a famine on the people, and at the same time to capture the majority of the oil and gas, which provided fuel to deliver supplies to the country. The idea was to impose such immense cruelty, famine, and death on the people, the poor people, the ordinary people, that somehow they would rise up and they would overthrow their government in favor of the terrorists. It failed, and yet the policy continues to this day.
So this Plan B stands, as I mentioned, on three pillars. One, sanctions, especially in 2018, the Caesar Act. Guys, the United States is lying to you when they say that they don't impose any sanctions on the humanitarian sectors, for example, food, medicine, etc. They're lying to you because they impose sanctions on the Central Bank of Syria, and that means Syria cannot deal with any other country and make transactions, and any other company who receives any sort of funding from Syria, or like their bills, right, because they're selling products to Syria, they're coming under the American sanctions. And this is why many, even the companies that are on allied territories in Russia, in Iran, and elsewhere, they're also afraid to deal with Syria because their companies are being sanctioned because they have brands and franchises also in Europe, in the United States, and they don't want to risk their business. These sanctions are also extended on the medical sector. In Syria, there is a big shortage of medicine, and the UN Special Rapporteur for the impact of the unilateral coercive measures on Syria, Alena Duhan, she came on Syriana analysis, and she mentioned this, that Syria has a severe shortage of even medicine. And for example, if any equipment in any hospital needs to be repaired, they cannot import the necessary spare parts so that they can repair this. They cannot repair, for example, water supply pumps. They cannot repair the electricity generators, etc., etc. All this because of the sanctions. So this is the first pillar of the Plan B. The second is, as Senator Richard Black said, to steal the oil and the wheat of the Syrians in order to impose famine on the people so that the people rise against the government and remove the government from power in favor of the terrorists. It also didn't happen. The third, which is now connected to the Israeli attack on Syria, guys, and that is occupying the border crossings of Syria with the neighboring countries. Now I will share with you the map of control over Syria so that we can see how the United States. So this is the map of control. I will turn off my camera so that you can see it all, this map, because it's important. So this is the map of control over Syria, right? The attack yesterday happened here. Exactly here. This corner, okay, called Al Qaim in Al Abu Kamal city. So if we see how this map, This green part is occupied by the United States in collaboration with the mercenaries of the Free Syrian Army. So they occupy this border crossing, which is Al Tanaf border crossing, that connects Iraq and Jordan to Syria. Both Iraq and Jordan, they do business with Syria through this border crossing. Now it is occupied by the United States. The borders with Iraq entirely here are occupied by the Syrian Democratic Forces, which is an American sponsored militia led by the Kurds. In 2011 and 2013, between 2011 and 2013, the terrorists tried to occupy here Al Qusayr. If you remember the beginning of the war, here Al Qusayr, it's written here. So they tried to occupy this town so that they block this border crossing and this highway or the business route between Lebanon from Hermel, Baalbek to Al Qusayr, and from Qusayr it goes to Homs, and from Homs it goes to Aleppo, to Damascus, and elsewhere. So the plan is not only to impose famine, but also to control the borders, the border crossings of Syria. So the Syrians and the Iranians and the Iraqis, they had a different project because they cannot do business. This area is occupied by the United States, so they opened a new border crossing in Al Qaim, this area, and they can do business through this border crossing. Now, the first strike that Joe Biden authorized on Syria when he came to power in 2020, 2021, I don't remember. Anyways, it was here on Al Qaim border crossing. And now the Israelis are again bombing this area. And why they're bombing this area? Because Iran sends supplies to Syria, whether it's humanitarian, whether it's medical. And I don't think there is any military equipment coming from this area. They don't need it. They can send it through the warplanes, through the ships, because heavy weaponry do not need to come through underground to Syria. So they bombed it, right? So this is the real reason. Now, I want to show you a few videos from the strike, just for you to see the gravity of the strikes on these areas. This is the video in the aftermath of the bombing. And this is the second day when people woke up and they went to check what happened in this area. So this is the first one. So this is one of the videos that was posted on Twitter, and this is the second video for the, again, aftermath of the attack, the second day from the same angle. So it's pretty obvious that, it's pretty obvious that there is no weapon supplies here or convoy. If there was a weapons here and these convoys were destroyed, there would be big explosions here and the flames, and we will see different marks on the ground if there were any sorts of weapons, right? So why did Israel did this then if it's not about weapons? I think this is also related to the recent attack of Israel, a drone attack of Israel on one of Iran's military facilities, because they say Iran is supplying the Russian side with their kamikaze drones, and it seems that the United States gave a green light to Israel to do this attack. I don't think without American consent, this attack would have happened, or even a green light from the American side. And so I think this is related in the bigger geopolitical conflict in Ukraine. The broader context here is Ukraine. And I think because we are slowly but surely heading toward World War III, and this is, I'm not trying to fearmonger and not trying to scare you guys, but the type of escalation that is happening now in Ukraine indicates that World War III is not really far away from happening, and it's already happening in a limited scope, but it could happen on a wider scope. And the United States, by giving the green light to Israel, is telling Israel that, okay, You don't want to stand firmly on my side in Ukraine, but I will give you green light to strike Iran. But in exchange, I want you, if there is a bigger regional war or a World War III, I need a firm position from you standing on our side. You are either with us or you are against us. It's not possible that you put one foot here and one foot there. Because for the moment, until this moment, for example, Israel isn't supporting Ukraine on a higher scale. It's not sending so much weapons or military assistance or intelligence assistance. Their heart lies stands with the Ukrainian side, with the American side, but they're not able to do that because they know if they do so, their activities in the skies of Syria will be jeopardized. And if they do so, Russia will supply Syria with kind of weapons and long range missiles or air defense systems that they can protect themselves in a proper way. So Israel doesn't want to do that. They have their own priority in the region and they don't want to jeopardize this. Um, um, their free hand of striking Syria without consequences. So they don't want to be like jump on the wagon of Ukraine and lose this privilege in Syria. Accordingly, I believe that this American green light was telling the Israelis, you are whether you do this attack on Iran, most probably from Azerbaijani territories, but you have to be with us. If World War III starts, you are gonna stand with us. You are one of us, and not gonna make a good relationship with the Russian side, despite Netanyahu's and Putin's good relation in this regard. So the United States is drawing clear lines for if World War III erupts. This is my personal analysis in this regard. But let's suppose there were weapons coming to Syria from Iran. This is a point that could be controversial for some, but it's a very, in my opinion, legitimate question. Does Syria have has the right to have weapons? Does Syria has the right to buy weapons from Iran? Yes. Does Syria has the right to buy weapons from Russia? Yes. Does Syria has the right to buy defensive weapons? Yes. Does Syria has the right to buy offensive weapons? Yes. There is nothing that says Syria cannot buy weapons, whether from Iran, whether from Russia, whether from North Korea, whether from Honolulu, whether from anywhere. Syria can buy weapons from wherever they want, as long as they are not using them in expansion, in illegal occupation, in trying to cause war. Syria isn't doing any of this stuff. Syria is just trying to protect its skies from the continuous Israeli airstrikes. So if there were weapons, I think completely legitimate, especially if it's air defense systems. Syria has the right to protect its skies. Guys, just this rhetoric or narrative is so crazy that we are targeting Iranian military convoy, sending weapons to Syria. Okay, if that is permissible and that is allowed, then every weapon cargo that comes to Israel, whether in Haifa port or in Tel Aviv airport, then it's a legitimate target. If we want to apply this logic on Syria and Iran and Iraq or whatever, it can be also applied on Israel. So I don't understand why Israel can buy weapons and Syrians cannot buy weapons. Is there anything controversial that I'm saying here? Please, it's a really ridiculous, in my opinion, argument from the American and the Israeli side and they always, when they attack Syria, oh, we are attacking Iranian linked groups. Who are these groups? Do they have names? Do they have a flag? Do they have any headquarters? Who are these Iranian linked groups? Every time they strike Syria, and I can assure you there were hundreds of strikes on Syria after 2011 and hundreds of deaths. 99% of the people who died, whether they are soldiers or civilians, were from the Syrian side. They were Syrians. They were not Iranians. They were not Hezbollah. They were not Iraqis. They were not Lebanese. There were, of course, deaths among the Hezbollah or among the Iranians, but 99% of them were Syrians. So this argument that, oh, they are Iranian linked groups doesn't give any sort of legitimacy for those who are committing these atrocities on Syria. Because accordingly, we can say, oh, now the Syrian Democratic Forces, the SDF, it's legitimate to strike them because they are American linked groups. If you use this logic here, you can use this logic there as well. So I think it's a very dangerous argument that they are making here in this regard. So I think, guys, we are not really going into de escalation in the entire world. Things are heading towards really. I'm really afraid that things could go out of control, and it's not really on the long term. I'm talking about on the short term. Now there are tanks going to Ukraine. The numbers are not so big, but this will open the door for other types of weaponry. Ukraine will start calling for sending other types of weapons. F-16, they're already asking. Zelensky said, I want F-16. I want long-range missiles. So if these tanks arrive and then the long-range missiles come and then F-16, what's going to come next? Submarines? I mean, the former ambassador of Ukraine, Melnik, this Banderist, the guy who glorified Bandera, Stepan Bandera, the Nazi collaborator, the ally of Hitler, on a German TV, Jung and Naive, the program, the name of it. He glorified Bandera and he said he's a national hero. He was summoned, he was withdrawn from Berlin, thankfully, and he is now the deputy foreign minister or something. And he posted on his page, on his Twitter account, he posts every day on his Twitter account, urging Germany to send submarines, urging Germany to send fighter jets, urging other countries to send more weapons. And they are mobbing, they are like a big mobs and bullying against the politicians, the diplomats, and they are really pressuring them to send more weapons. And if this type of weapons arrive in Ukraine, the scope of the war is not going to stay in Ukraine. Rest assured, if F-16s come, if submarines, which is really not realistic, unrealistic. I forgot my English now. Anyways, it's unrealistic. But let's suppose if this happens, the war is not going to stop there. The Russians will start bombing the supply lines in Poland. There could be tactical nuclear attacks on the headquarters of the decision makers. This is not a joke. I don't understand how Western politicians think it is, but I don't see that they're concerned about World War III. And I don't see that they're concerned that tens of millions of people could perish. And I don't see that they are concerned at all that our existence we could extinct. I don't see that. Why? Because they're the first one who will be in the bunkers protecting themselves against, protected from such nuclear attacks. Go in the United States or in anywhere in Europe. There are no bunkers for such type of warfare. Only the politicians and their families and their beloved ones could protect themselves. The rest will die. Do we really want that? I'm sometimes speechless because I follow politicians, diplomats, decision makers on Twitter, and sometimes I truly ask these questions. Are these people really politicians or they are activists? Because the way they speak, the way they formulate their arguments, the way they talk and demand and tweet, it gives me the impression that these people aren't politicians. They are activists. And if they were really politicians, the job of a politician and a diplomat is to solve problems and not to cause more problems. And all these activities that we see, whether on social media or in true life or on TV channels, these politicians are causing problems and not solving problems. I mean, am I wrong? Really, I'm just now reading the live chat. Charlie Harris, thank you so much, bro, for your tip. Just wanted to send you a little dollar to help you in the fight to inform the Western world about what is really happening. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Charlie. I really appreciate it. I really consider this my duty. It's not like I'm trying to build a media empire or become rich. I really wake up every morning. I feel like I want to do something. I want to speak. I want to tell the truth. I want to wake up people. I want to open eyes because I am a person. When the war started in Syria, I was 22. I was a little kiddo, but I lived through this war. I went through these experiences for more than 1 decade. I followed the media extensively, closely. I documented, I spoke, I tried to be active. I learned something, and I can smell bullshit and I can smell corruption from hundreds of miles away. Like during Corona times, I'm not a medical expert, but I can smell corruption. And there was a huge corruption during the Corona era: media corruption, political corruption, medical corruption. So I that's why I'm not an expert, so I don't speak much about it. I don't really try to claim that. But on the topics that I know one thing or two, I want to come out and inform the people. And I tell you guys, this escalation by Israel in Syria, Iraq, and Iran is linked to the wider geopolitical conflict in Ukraine. And now this will also bring Iran and Russia closer to each other. And it will bring Russia and China and Iran closer to each other. There was no time in the history when Iran had these good relations with Russia. There was no time in the history when Russia and China were so close like now. There was no time in the history when Iran and Russia and China were this close. There was no time. But they're coming closer together, not only because they have mutual interests, because in my opinion, China and Russia do not share a lots of geopolitical interests. Do not. And the same goes between Iran and Russia. They don't share a lots of geopolitical interests. They don't in the region and abroad. The same between Iran and China. They have different goals, different interests, but they're coming closer and closer together. Why? Because of the escalation of the United States, because of the coup d'etats of the United States, because of the regime change wars of the United States, because of the expansion of the American empire, because of the expansion of NATO. People are sick and tired by the American exceptionism, American imperialism, American expansionism. So they want to get uh, to breathe. They want to enjoy different type of life. They want to enjoy their natural resources. They want to become independent from the American influence and hegemony. And there is nothing wrong in that. These people have the right to live in dignity. They have the right to live in a sovereign country where there is no bulldog coming and bullying you every day to pursue certain policies, whether domestically or internationally on a foreign policy level. And that is the difference, bigger difference between Russia and the United States. The Russians do not come and tell you, and I'm not trying to like be biased towards Russia. This is the truth. The Russians do not come and tell you you need to do this or else. And the experience in Syria is the biggest proof. The Russians always share their concerns, they give suggestions, they have a big influence over Syria, but at no time they dictate. At no time they intimidate. At no time they bully and say, if you don't do this, then I don't do that. Never happened. So that is the bigger difference, in my opinion, between the United States and the Russian side. And therefore, a lot of countries, especially in the global south, in Latin America, in Africa, in the Middle East, like imagine countries like Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, who are historically closely tied to the United States, are they want now to pursue their own national interests, and they're saying no to the United States. And the Americans are now threatening the Saudis and the Emiratis with sanctions. Can you believe that? It's unbelievable. But regionally speaking, I'm happy that these countries are coming together, and I'm happy that Turkey is coming to its senses a little bit, and they want to open ties now with Syria, and they don't want to let Sweden and what was Finland to become NATO. I'm happy for that, and it seems that in case of an escalation, there will be clear groupings of who is on whose side. And I think the Turkish position is very important. If Russia succeeds to neutralize Turkey, so that if in case of a larger war, Turkey would stay on the bench and not participate in favor of any side, that is a big diplomatic and military victory, in my opinion, for Russia. And the entire Syrian situation would be also more than 70 to 80% would be resolved if Turkey restores ties. And because of that, because Turkey wants to open a new chapter now with Syria, the Saudis also want to open a new ties, new page with Syria, and they sent the foreign minister Al Nahyan of Emirate to Syria, and Emirate is trying to mediate between the Syrian and the Saudi side. So, guys, today's live stream is 35 minutes already. It's not too long. It's not like 1 hour live stream. I wanted to address this issue because the Israeli strikes on Syria. On the borders, Syrian-Iraqi borders, weren't really covered a lot, even by lots of alternative media. I haven't seen so many reports, so I wanted to bring you this information that I think is very important and crucial. And by the way, today I was on Kim Iverson's show. I'm sure most of you know her. She's a really brilliant journalist, Kim Iverson. She has her own YouTube channel with 500,000 subscribers, and she brings lots of informative reportages on the geopolitics and also the corruption during the Corona era. Now she's following up on this. You can also go and watch her if you want. Kim Iverson is a really good, in my opinion, in her reporting. And she hosted me, and we spoke about this issue today. I think she will post the reportage very soon. You can find it on her account. But the other day, some of you guys recommended me to contact a person, and I really forgot his name. Just let me check here in my history, the library. So you told me to talk to Emil Kozman, and I just left a comment on his YouTube. How can I contact him? If you guys know him, let him know that I'm trying to contact him. I left a comment, but there is no email address or something, or I didn't find him on Facebook, Twitter, so he's only on YouTube. If you guys know him, if there is any communication between you and him, my email address is already written on my YouTube, on my Syriana analysis website. So it's public. He can contact me, or he can leave simply a comment under his last video. So I want to host him also on Syriana analysis to speak about different issues together. So, guys, this was all for today. If you didn't watch the interview with retired Colonel Richard Black, or the former senator, I will post the link under in the description and in the comments. Please go and watch. It was very informative. I think a lot of you missed it because there was a problem in his volume from his side. I couldn't fix that when we were online live streaming, but I did it in the post processing. I posted it again as a normal video. Please go and watch. It's very important. His insight, the strategy of the United States in Syria during the regime change war and after the regime change war, and where are we heading to in Syria? Are the US occupation forces going to withdraw from Syria, and what's going to happen in Ukraine? We spoke a lot, really. It was very informative. Go and watch it, guys, and hope to see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.